This is a video on how to replace the air filter on a 2011 Ninja 250. This is a great job for beginners because it's fairly easy to do. The service manual says to clean the filter every year, or every 7,500 miles, whichever comes first, and to replace the filter every 2 years. Instead of cleaning the filter, I just replace it because a new filter is only about $8 to $12, and I don't want to mess with chemicals and waste time cleaning the old filter. Just be sure not to buy from a dealer, or else you may pay a lot more than $8 to $12. In order to replace the filter with a new one, we'll have to remove the right side cover, the airbox cover, and the air filter apparatus. We'll begin by removing the right side cover. There's one Phillips head bolt, and there are 3 stoppers inserted in grommets. Gently pull out the stoppers one by one. These are the 3 grommets. Now we have access to the airbox cover. There are 3 Phillips head bolts that secure the cover. On this bike, the lower bolt never threads very easily. Be aware that when the bolts are removed, the cover may fall. Now we will remove the airbox cover. And the air filter apparatus. Pull the apparatus straight out. If it gets stuck, push its bracket inwards towards the air filter so that it clears the edges of the airbox. Notice that this side of the air filter leading to the carburetor towards the front of the bike is clean, while the other side facing the rear of the bike, where the outside air is sucked in, is quite dirty. The air filter traps particles in the air on the left side of the airbox so that they do not move to the right side of the airbox and get sucked into the carburetors. This is the air filter apparatus. We will now separate the bracket from the air filter. The bracket snaps out of place in 2 locations. Be sure to hold the bracket with 4 fingers placed around the junction where the 4 pieces of plastic meet so that the bracket is not bent when removed. In this video, I only use 3 fingers. Again, you will hear a snapping noise when the bracket comes apart. This protrusion has a flare at the end which the hole on the other side of the bracket snaps over. Again, try not to bend the bracket. Discard the old air filter. Then thoroughly clean the bracket halves with a cloth or paper towel so that no dirt or debris will fly off and enter the carburetors when the filter apparatus is reinstalled. You may want to clean the inside of the airbox cover also. This is the side that faces the carburetors and should be especially clean. And this is the side that faces the rear of the bike where the air is sucked in. As you can see, spiders tend to congregate around this region. I'm using an OEM filter purchased at Partzilla. Partzilla has been fairly reliable with low prices and fast shipping, but lately their service has been not quite as good, primarily because of slower shipping times. Also, this filter came in a package with no padding and was folded in half. Here's the part number. When cutting the bag, be careful not to slice the filter. As stated in the service manual, the filter must be oiled before installation. Thankfully, the OEM filters that I buy always come pre-oiled. You can confirm that the filter is oiled by gently squeezing it together. If the filter is pre-oiled, you should see liquid emerge, but be aware that the factory applies only a very small amount of oil to the filter, so you won't see much. The purpose for the oil is to help trap microscopic dirt particles in the air and prevent them from entering the carburetors. You probably should not set the new filter on paper towels because they might absorb the oil from the filter. Now install the bracket onto the filter. Push the protrusion into the hole on the filter. Do the same with the other half of the bracket. Make sure that the bracket is positioned correctly. The hole on one bracket half should fit onto the protrusion on the other bracket half. You should hear a snapping noise. Do the same with the other side. Before installing the air filter apparatus, check the air box for dirt and debris. This is the slot that the filter fits into. The side of the air box to the right of this slot should be clean because it leads to the carburetors. Any dirt or debris on this side of the slot may enter the carburetors and cause engine damage. The side of the airbox to the left of the slot might be a little dirty, but that's okay because the air filter will block the particles from entering the carburetors. But if there are large pieces of debris to the left of the slot, you should probably remove them just to be sure that they don't enter the carburetors. Here's a closer view of the inside of the airbox. Notice that the ends of this side of the bracket are warped, probably due to repeated separation of the two halves of the bracket, whereas on this side the bracket ends are straight. If the ends of the bracket are warped in this way, it's best to try to gently bend them straight, because if you try to install the apparatus with bent bracket ends, the bracket may not fit into the slot in the airbox or the slot on the airbox cover. Remember to squeeze the bracket inwards if it gets stuck during installation. As you can see, when I put the filter apparatus into the airbox with the bent ends in first, the apparatus does not fit entirely into the airbox because the bent ends of the bracket are not fitting into the slot in the airbox. The end of the air filter is sticking out and I can't install the airbox cover. I solved this problem by flipping the apparatus so that the straight side of the bracket fits in first, but it's probably best to gently bend the bracket straight so that it fits at both ends of the airbox properly. When installing the apparatus, remember that if the bracket gets stuck on the edges of the airbox, push the bracket inward. Notice that the warped end is facing outwards now. Now the air filter apparatus is fully in place and the end is not sticking out of the airbox. The airbox cover can now be installed. Again, be sure that the side of the cover that faces the carburetors is clean. Install the 3 Phillips head bolts. Again, on this bike, the lower bolt is always difficult to thread for some reason. I'll start the bolt installation by hand with the Phillips head bit. Then I'll use a driver on an appropriate setting. The service manual says to use 22 inch-pounds of torque on these bolts. Be aware that these bolts don't have much bite and do tend to fall off. The new filter is now installed. Lastly, we will install the right side cover. Begin by pushing the 3 stoppers into their grommets. Be sure that the middle portion of the cover fits under the seat. Then install the Phillips head bolt. This concludes replacement of the air filter on a 2011 Ninja 250.